Hello and welcome. I'm Al Barrows, and this is UFO Disclosure, the podcast that's meant to show an average person's reaction to all the UAP, UFO news from everywhere and anywhere. Today, I'd like to discuss Skywatcher Part 2, the second video in a series put together by Jake Barber, who at the beginning of this year revealed that for years he had been part of a UAP crash retrieval program. Here's a picture of Jake Barber himself, who in January went on News Nation with the journalist Ross Coldhart and revealed he was involved in the recovery of alien technology while working for a long-rumored secret UFO retrieval program. Now, Jake Barber not only revealed that on News Nation, but he also put together a crack team of technicians and helicopter pilots and has gone out into the desert and has been summoning UAP and making videos of this. He's already put out one episode, which I covered previously in this podcast. I'd like to follow up now and show you the second episode in the Skywatcher series. This one is called Mapping the Unknown. Something that is noteworthy in this second episode of Skywatcher is that they came up with a classification system for the UAPs. Now, this might not be all the UAPs that exist out there, but at least these are the 9 that they've been observing in the desert. And there's 9 in this grouping. The Tetra, which is class 1, the Tic Tac, which is class 2, the Blob, class 3, sort of a plasmoid type, roundish UAP, the Beam, class 4, the Manta Ray, which sort of looks like a manta ray or a boomerang, if you will. Then class 6 would be the Bright Star. I guess it looks like a pyramid inside of some plasma. And then the class 7 would be the Jellyfish. And they do a whole segment on the Jellyfish, which was made famous by Jeremy Corbell, who got some footage on social media a while back. There's the class 8 then, called the Hornet, and then finally the Egg, which was made famous by Ross Coldhart when he interviewed Jake Barber this past January. I'll play the video now and let Skywatcher break down the classification system.
Based it on flight characteristics. We've broken the UAPs down into 9 classes or types. Some of these classes may be the same UAP under different flight configurations, but at this point, given their behavior, we're confident they don't align with conventional or terrestrial explanations. Each UAP class has different characteristics. Some shimmer, some tumble, some spin. Some look like they're alive and they just fly like a living object in the sky. UAPs are extremely hard to image. What is seen with the naked eye is generally not what is seen under camera. The class 1 often spins, tumbles through the sky. Craft looks like a black body. It appears to flash, pulse multiple times per second. There appears to be some kind of cloud or vapor around it. We've seen class 1s in formations up to 22, 23, flying in different flight formations, different flock formations. The class 2 is the classic Tic Tac. We've seen it in groups of 2 to 3, often flying very erratically. We've seen these a couple years in a row, and usually we see them in groups. The class 3, the Blob, a pulsing, vibrating cloud. There's something, maybe perhaps a cylinder kind of in the middle that has a different light like a flame, and then it vibrates and pulses as it moves through space. The class 4 is your orb. We've only seen it in infrared. The class 4 seems to only come during certain activities in conjunction with perhaps the class 1. We don't have enough data yet to confirm. The class 5 we call the Manta Ray. It seems to tumble and rotate as it moves through the sky. Class 6 is Bright Star. That one vibrates very, very fast. It literally looks like a crystal in the sky. The class 7 is the Jellyfish. It's probably about 2 meters across. The head is purple and black in color, and then it has tentacles. The class 8 we call the Hornet. It looks very similar to the class 7, the Jellyfish, except for it's bigger, and it's almost like a jellyfish carrying something. And then the class 9 is the Egg. The class 9 isn't something we have a lot of data on. It's very limited. We have it as Skywatcher during our California event. It's an emerging class, and we have strong evidence that it probably exists, but we don't have data to concisely describe it.
Okay, so I have to admit that the video of the UAPs that Skywatcher shows are blurry and they could easily be mistaken for something else. But as I've read a lot of these reports, I know that UAPs usually involve some sort of a plasma surrounding them, which would account for the blurriness in the video. I appreciate the fact that they're out there doing this work in a very technical and scientific way. And I understand that in order to summon these UAP, they have to be in an isolated area. But that isolation also brings about a lot of suspicion. If they did it in a more public arena, I guess people would buy into it more. I'd like to move on now with a segment they did on what they call the Jellyfish UAP, which has been seen all over social media for a while now. If you guys recall, last year, 2024, Jeremy Corbell, the famous ufologist, made the Jellyfish UAP famous by releasing a military infrared video.
Investigative UFO journalists Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp obtained the military-filmed UAP incursion. They say, according to witnesses, the object displayed transmedium capabilities, going underwater for more than 15 minutes, and after it resurfaced, rapidly accelerating.
Here's a clip from the Skywatcher Part 2 video that shows the spaghetti UAP.
It was very glinty, looked metallic. Through our optics, we've always thought it was purple or black. Frankly, the reflections look like chrome almost color.
Looking to the east, Check heading around 68 degrees.
It's probably 4,000 feet above us, about maybe 1 kilometer out, horizontal distance above the ground. And it looked like 8 meters total in distance from top to bottom. The top will look like a mushroom, like a big jellyfish. It was very, very, very bright white and vibrating and flashing, like pulsing. There was like 3 flashing panels, like equal distance going down it. I've seen some the last couple of days through a sensor, so I'd seen them before, so it wasn't like awe-shocking, but it was, kind of taken back to be like, oh wow, really am seeing one, with my actual visual eyes, right here, right above me at 4,000 feet. It looked like a jumper under canopy at 4,000 feet, which is the same distance when they pull. So that part is crazy. Then I knew, like, I'm not seeing stuff, there it is. It's the same thing that I've been seeing on sensor. And all the characteristics, were consistent with what a Class 7 should look like.
The Class 7 is a jellyfish. It's not the jellyfish you've seen on TV. It's a different jellyfish. We think the head of the jellyfish is about 2 meters in size. We think the tentacles hanging down are about 3 to 5 meters in size, varying and depending on which one you're looking at. You can see these stills are taken from different jellyfish. You can see this jellyfish, the tentacles look very, very long. On this one, they look shorter compared to the head. As you can see, the nodules on the tentacles light up. And again, this light appears to us to go from head to tail and pulse and light up the nodules as it goes. Also, sometimes it looks like an automaton or something with like an alien movie where it's got like the tail kind of hanging out, like it's seeking something. And sometimes it looks like it's a jellyfish in the sky. It seems to undulate as it moves. We have seen these take direct flight paths. Even yesterday, for the first time, we had 2 in formation. We've never seen that before. We chased down one of those 2, and it deviated its flight path as we approximated, and then it elevated directly straight up, as in directly vertical. So the Class 7 is very hard to image, and at distance, it looks very similar to the Class 6 and also the Class 8 at distance. So what you're going to see is it's kind of, I'll call it swimming in through the sky. There aren't a lot of exotic colors. There is reflectivity, but that color you see right there is very akin to the Class 6 when it's not emitting high energy or whatever it's doing. So when it's not vibrating. So we don't know what that means. And you can kind of start to see now the tentacles hanging down as it moves. In IR, they're very obvious. They're less obvious in EO. So we have multiple indications that this is a real object, that is not man-made, and that it is flying through our airspace and does want to avoid us.
Okay, I'm going to stop it right there because something significant happens at this point in the episode. The psionics team, which are the members of the Skywatcher team that telepathically communicate and summon these UAP, they made a prediction that two different types of UAP would come together, that there would be an intersection of two different classes of UAP, in other words.
At the end of day 2, our psionic team made a bold prediction that the next day we would see an interaction between two different types of UAPs in the sky.
The Class 7s, we believe, are aggressive. They appear to want to encroach on us and get over us. The Class 5 we saw yesterday seemed to put itself between us and the Class 7, and the Class 7 then egressed to the north and the east. Let's do like an 11:10 startup. How long can you idle on the ground?
Yeah.
Like 20 minutes?
Yeah.
Done.
On day 3, around noon, our radar started to detect a Class 2 Tic Tac.
So all of a sudden, on day 2 of this expedition, their radars indicate a Class 2 or Tic Tac UAP in the sky over them.
We had our SIs who had just finished doing their thing, and one of them had brought up the fact that something was going to come from a very specific direction. He had a really good feeling about a specific location.
There have been multiple instances of the psionic team predicting when the machine calling and the radar team will actually sense an object.
The Class 2 is the classic Tic Tac. We have had laser rangefinder returns on them to give us distance. And through that method and the optical zoom, we are able to measure. We think they're about 40 feet in length, and they appear to be traveling supersonic and hypersonic. A very interesting thing, which you'll see in the videos, is when we do see them, they're at the edge of our sensor capabilities. You'll see like there's striations around these stills, and sometimes it almost looks like it bends, almost like it's not a solid mass. So when it's spinning, when it comes out of the spin, for a second it looks like part of it, like probably a third of it, is bendable and it bends.
And at this point, is it dropping rapidly?
Yes, the only thing that's changing is the angle that we're looking at it with.
The elevation angle, is that right?
Yes, and we're moving in a downward fashion. The system operator is having a very hard time keeping in frame because it's falling so fast.
Dropping fast.
So you can't zoom in, and our servos don't move that fast, so our equipment can't handle that zoom factor with the speed. You'll see multiple UAPs in these, and as in they're flying together. I don't know that they're in a formation. You know, if you go frame by frame, you can see their cylinders.
Wow.
So that's the Class 2.
Fascinating.
Visual 340 from the radar, approximately 5 kilometers out, 800 feet elevation.
Okay, so they actually send out the helicopter to intercept this Tic Tac UAP.
We sent the helo out to intercept the Tic Tac, but the first attempt failed because our radar was being jammed by the Class 7 Jellyfish.
I'm stopping it there because I thought this was probably the second most noteworthy aspect of Skywatcher Part 2. The fact that they established that this UAP was jamming their helicopter instruments. Here's Jake Barber himself explaining the phenomenon where the UAP interfere with the helicopter's navigation system.
Our helicopter launched, and about a half mile out, the helicopter stopped moving. Engines running, blades are turning, but it would not go forward, it would not go up, it would not go left or right, it was stuck there.
So we're kind of, imagine like a blanket above us, it's like pressing us down.
So maybe we were in proximity to it. It was saying don't come any higher.
Yeah, that's
because that was when I told you guys elevate, right?
Controls resisting.
That's fascinating.
We were called out to intercept an object that was found on radar. We went to the location it was supposed to be at. We circled a couple times and were requested to climb another 1,000 feet. The instrumentation started to bounce and the collective basically was frozen. I've never experienced anything like that before. I've got over 4,000 hours of flight time, and this has never happened before.
So we don't know how they're jamming us. We don't know how they're turning our equipment off yet. Best guess would be a microwave signal. We're not seeing it on the frequencies we're using for our collection equipment.
Yeah, this is north, but it's not giving a reading at all.
So they actually encounter three types of UAP in this episode, the 2, 5, and 7, which I believe are the Tic Tac, the Manta, and the Jellyfish UAP.
So it's really looking interesting that we're seeing multiple classes, 3 classes today, 2, 5, and 7. We saw them all with binoculars and or the naked eye, which is really new for us. We've not had that experience in the last 5 years. And the fact that the class 2 and class 5 seem to be putting themselves between us and the jellyfish. We don't know what that means. We don't have enough data yet to say that conclusively. And I'm not quite sure how many times we have to see something like that till we understand that that's probably the case. Also interesting that the class 5 and class 2 took 3 or 4 days to show up.
So it's interesting that the class 2, the Tic Tac, and the class 5, the manta ray, were creating interference for the jellyfish, which the Skywatcher team were tracking. It's also interesting that the Tic Tac and the manta ray took a lot longer to show up, whereas the jellyfish had already been there. Here's the part in the video where they give a description of the class 5 or the manta ray UAP.
The class 5 we call the manta ray. It looks to be like it's written, a manta ray. It has round everywhere. I don't think there's anything straight or nearly straight. We actually went frame by frame on this because it was tumbling slowly and derived a 3D model of what we think it looks like. Here you can see it tumbling and spinning on multiple axes as it comes through the frame.
And you said this is going perpendicular to the wind and faster than the wind.
Yes, it was on radar. It was on imagery, multiple bands. And the interesting thing is the radar shows this vibrating as well, the same heartbeat signal, which is really a boost in our analysis because only UAPs appear to have the vertical and horizontal heartbeat. Manned aircraft, balloons, birds, drones, they don't. They have a flat line trajectory and also a flat line radar signature. So that's the class 5.
Excellent.
Okay, so I thought that was pretty cool. They're trying to create a classification for UAPs. There was also a lot of excitement when they were not able to raise above a certain altitude. There was some sort of interference with the cyclic, which is that joystick that the helicopter pilot uses to maneuver. The Skywatcher team and the videos are something that is evolving. I feel that it's worth being patient, but it's also interesting to see what people think. A lot of people on social media have become quite impatient and think that Jake Barber and his team might be part of a disinformation campaign or some sort of a hoax. Let's take a look at what people are saying on social media. Okay, so on the subreddit RUAP, UMAC says, "I'm neither a believer or doubter, but some things do not make sense with Skywatcher, and it's starting to feel like more of a shiny Kickstarter campaign with an ad agency behind it than an earthly grassroots disclosure. If they can genuinely summon jellyfish and Tic Tacs on demand with their dog whistle, and dog whistle is what the Skywatcher team is calling their UAP summoning procedure. If they can summon UAP with their dog whistle, then why not just cut to the chase? Choose a nice, safe place where there are a ton of everyday people to witness it, announce a date in advance, and let others bring their own telephoto lenses." And that's true, that would be more transparency. I'm sure that being out in the desert is probably more convenient for Jake and his team. And on the same subreddit, RUFOs, Cartboy96 says, "Skywatcher episode, I'm pretty impressed. I'm still waiting on the sensor and radar data they claimed so we can see the speed and altitude to completely rule out prosaic explanations. But the videos are a nice way of reassuring they're actually doing some good work. For me, the most convincing one was the Tic Tac, not only because the story and clip of the helicopter getting jammed, but also the movement of it shown in the video. For me, the Tic Tac rotating on its axis violently and curving its body like some sort of flexible mass is really trippy and definitely anomalous. I literally can't think of anything that could do that. The jellyfish also very weird. The tendrils seem to be pulsating. That also could be reflection caused by movement. But until we get the sensor data and radar, could just be a weird balloon. Really don't know. That's true. I've seen videos where balloons have been mistaken for UAP. At the end here, Cartboy96 says, all in all, very cool and interesting stuff. And someone down below, Albedo the Rascal, says, I was hoping for the best and prepared for the worst. It fell somewhere in between, but overall, I am pleasantly surprised and hope they can start dumping info on us. The more, the better. This is a valiant effort. Okay, I agree. At least somebody's doing something, and they're doing it in an organized and scientific way. Be they a disinformation campaign or not, they're still putting information out there that's valuable, and I appreciate it. I hope you guys enjoyed this. My name is Al Barber'S. This has been UFO Disclosure. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks.